The story of Palestine in the 20th century is one marked by profound upheaval and enduring resilience. This land, with its rich history and cultural tapestry, became the epicenter of a conflict that would shape the modern Middle East. As the Ottoman Empire crumbled during World War I, the British took control of Palestine under a mandate from the League of Nations. This mandate was intended to prepare the region for self-governance, but it also laid the groundwork for future discord. This period, beginning in 1920, saw the seeds of conflict sown as Zionist aspirations for a Jewish state in Palestine clashed with the aspirations of the indigenous Palestinian Arab population, who constituted the overwhelming majority of the inhabitants. The bustling marketplaces and vibrant communities of the time masked the underlying tensions that were beginning to surface. Zionist immigration to Palestine increased steadily during the British Mandate period, fueled by growing anti-Semitism in Europe and the Zionist movement's vision of a Jewish homeland. Each new wave of immigrants brought with it hope for a new beginning, but also heightened the fears and anxieties of the local Arab population. This influx, however, exacerbated tensions with the Palestinian Arab population, who rightly feared dispossession from their ancestral lands. The farmers who had tilled the soil for generations now faced an uncertain future, as protests and clashes became more frequent. The British, caught between their conflicting promises to both sides, struggled to maintain order as violence erupted periodically. Their attempts to placate both communities often resulted in policies that satisfied neither, leading to further unrest and bloodshed. The Holocaust, with its horrors inflicted upon European Jews, further strengthened international sympathy for the Zionist cause and the idea of a Jewish state. The arrival of Holocaust survivors in Palestine added a poignant dimension to the conflict, as these individuals sought refuge and a new life in a land already fraught with tension. However, this came at a cost, as the burden of establishing the state was to be borne by the people of Palestine, who had no part in the atrocities committed in Europe. The displacement of Palestinian families and the destruction of their villages became a tragic consequence of the broader geopolitical struggle. As the Second World War concluded, the question of Palestine took center stage in international politics. The British, exhausted by the war and unable to find a solution acceptable to both Palestinians and Zionists, decided to withdraw from the region, leaving behind a volatile situation. The British handed the intractable problem over to the newly formed United Nations, hoping that an international body could broker a lasting peace. The UN's involvement marked a new phase in the conflict as global powers began to take sides and influence the outcome. This decision would have profound consequences for generations to come. The lives of ordinary Palestinians and Jewish residents were forever altered, as the seeds of discord planted during the British Mandate period grew into a full-blown conflict that continues to this day. The story of Palestine is a testament to the enduring human spirit in the face of adversity, and a reminder of the complexities of history that shape our present and future. In 1947, facing a seemingly intractable conflict, the United Nations proposed a partition plan for Palestine. This plan was seen as a potential solution to the growing tensions and violence between Jewish and Arab communities in the region. The British, who had been administering Palestine under a League of Nations mandate, were eager to withdraw and hand over the problem to the newly formed United Nations. This plan, Resolution 181, envisioned the creation of two states, one Jewish and one Arab, alongside a special international regime for Jerusalem. The city of Jerusalem, with its profound religious significance to Jews, Christians and Muslims, was to be placed under international administration to ensure access and protection for all faiths. The partition plan, while presented as a compromise, was inherently flawed and deeply problematic. The proposal was met with mixed reactions and intense debates within the United Nations, reflecting the complexities and deep-seated grievances of both communities. The proposed Jewish state though envisioned as encompassing 55% of the land, was to be home to a Jewish minority that constituted only about 33% of the population. This allocation of land was seen as disproportionate by many, given the demographic realities on the ground. The Palestinian Arab state, on the other hand, was to be squeezed into less fertile areas, despite the Arab population comprising the majority in Mandate Palestine. The proposed borders left many Arab villages and towns in fragmented and economically unviable territories. The partition plan was immediately rejected by the Palestinian Arab leadership and much of the Arab world. They argued that it was a gross injustice and a violation of their right to self-determination on their own land, which they had inhabited for centuries. They viewed it as unjust and a violation of their right to self-determination on their own land. Protests erupted across the Arab world, with leaders and citizens alike voicing their opposition to the plan and their determination to resist its implementation. The Zionist leadership, while officially accepting the plan, harbored ambitions for a larger state, laying the groundwork for future conflict. They saw the partition as a stepping stone towards the eventual expansion of their territory, driven by the historical and religious significance of the land. Despite its inherent flaws and the lack of consent from the Palestinian Arab population, the UN partition plan was adopted. The vote in the General Assembly was a momentous occasion, with intense lobbying and pressure from various international actors influencing the outcome. This decision, made in the shadow of the Holocaust and amidst intense international pressure, would have far-reaching consequences. The memory of the Holocaust and the plight of Jewish refugees played a significant role in garnering support for the establishment of a Jewish state. It set the stage for the tumultuous events of 1948 and the decades of conflict that followed. The immediate aftermath of the plan's adoption saw the eruption of violence leading to the First Arab-Israeli War and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people, shaping the geopolitical landscape of the region for generations to come. The year 1948 witnessed a turning point in Palestinian history, the Nakba, meaning catastrophe in Arabic. This event marked the beginning of a profound and enduring tragedy for the Palestinian people, one that would reshape their lives and their homeland forever. As British rule ended and the State of Israel was declared, a wave of violence swept across Palestine, displacing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homes. The end of British mandate and the birth of a new state brought with it a storm of conflict and upheaval, leaving a trail of destruction and despair in its wake. The Nakba was not a spontaneous eruption of violence, but rather a planned and systematic expulsion of Palestinians. It was a deliberate effort to alter the demographic landscape of the region, ensuring a Jewish majority in the newly formed state. This calculated strategy involved coordinated attacks and forced removals, leaving no room for Palestinians in their own land. Zionist militias, better armed and organized than their Palestinian counterparts, implemented a strategy of fear and intimidation to drive Palestinians from their homes and villages. These militias, equipped with superior weaponry and tactical planning, executed operations that instilled terror in the hearts of Palestinian civilians, compelling them to flee for their lives. Massacres like the one at Deir Yassin served as brutal examples, spreading terror and prompting mass flight. The horrific events at Deir Yassin, where scores of men, women and children were killed, sent shockwaves through Palestinian communities, amplifying the fear and urgency to escape the violence. Over 700,000 Palestinians became refugees, seeking refuge in neighboring Arab countries like Jordan, Lebanon and Syria. These refugees, uprooted from their ancestral homes, faced an uncertain future in foreign lands, often living in makeshift camps under harsh conditions. They were driven from their homes, their land confiscated, their villages destroyed, and their history erased. The systematic destruction of Palestinian villages and the appropriation of their lands were part of a broader strategy to erase Palestinian presence and heritage from the region. This mass displacement created a Palestinian refugee crisis that continues to this day. The legacy of the Nakba is a persistent and unresolved humanitarian issue, with millions of Palestinians still living as refugees, yearning for a return to their homeland. The Nakba was a traumatic event that continues to shape the Palestinian psyche. The collective memory of this catastrophe is deeply ingrained in the Palestinian identity, influencing their culture, politics and aspirations. It represents a profound loss of home, land and identity. The displacement and dispossession experienced during the Nakba have left an indelible mark on the Palestinian people, symbolizing a deep and enduring wound. The stories of dispossession, passed down through generations, fuel the Palestinian struggle for return and justice. These narratives of loss and resilience are a testament to the enduring spirit of the Palestinian people, who continue to fight for their rights and their homeland. The 1967 Six-Day War marked another turning point in the Palestinian story. In a swift military campaign, Israel occupied the remaining territories of historic Palestine, the West Bank, East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. This victory, while a defining moment in Israeli history, deepened the Palestinian experience of dispossession and occupation. The occupation brought with it a new set of hardships for Palestinians. Military rule restricted their movement, confiscated their land for settlements and subjected them to a different legal system than Jewish settlers living in the same territory. This system, often described as apartheid, denied Palestinians basic rights and freedoms. The occupation also led to the displacement of more Palestinians, adding to the already existing refugee population. Settlements, considered illegal under international law, expanded, further fragmenting the Palestinian territories and making a future Palestinian state increasingly difficult to envision. The 1967 war and its aftermath solidified the Palestinian struggle as not just a struggle for return, but also a struggle against occupation and for self-determination in their own independent state. This struggle continues to this day.